always tell when a streak's going to come to an end. You win a couple of games, you probably shouldn't.
There are teams out there that could use that quality of playoff goaltending.
All right, Ray, you ready to do this?
Yep, let's go.
Powered by Rev Media in partnership with TSN, it is Season 7 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Tim Hortons. The Tim's NHL Hockey Challenge is back. It's in the Tim Hortons app, and you have a chance to win daily and monthly prizes for picking players who you think will score. Plus, there's a chance to win a new Hyundai Tucson. That's the season-end grand prize.
You can always tell when a streak's going to come to an end. You win a couple of games, you probably shouldn't.
There are teams out there that could use that quality of playoff goaltending.
All right, Ray, you ready to do this?
Yep, let's go.
Powered by Rev Media in partnership with TSN, it is Season 7 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Tim Hortons. The Tim's NHL Hockey Challenge is back. It's in the Tim Hortons app, and you have a chance to win daily and monthly prizes for picking players who you think will score. Plus, there's a chance to win a new Hyundai Tucson. That's the season-end grand prize. Canadians could also try to keep a 7-day streak alive and win free coffee or tea for a week. Check it all out, timhortons.ca, for a full list of prizes. And Ray, it feels a bit strange going with that Tim Hortons read. You know, of course, we've got the resumption of the NHL regular season, so that means that the Tim's Hockey Challenge applies to us. We'll revisit that in another podcast a little bit later, but everything about this podcast and the hockey world has been driven around the Olympics. So I had to look twice when Randine Rashog sent the updated version and reminding, okay, the Olympics are behind us. So, you know, we're not selling hockey cards anymore, at least not for the moment. We're getting back into the Tim's NHL Challenge. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at.
It feels like the oddest of times now for not just for our Tim's Challenge, but like the season starts again, and you're like, I had to look again to go, who is in what place and where are they? You know, like it's just vanished for 3 weeks, and you know, it's starting Wednesday. It's all back to it, right? And it's a sprint now.
You know, the aftermath has been interesting. Aftermath of the post-gold medal on Sunday. Obviously, Team USA winning in dramatic overtime fashion. I thought you handled the analysis of the Jack Hughes overtime winner gold medal clinching goal well in establishing what you saw in terms of the breakdown of, the three players playing for Canada on the ice in that situation. Yet people continue to want to chew on it and dwell on it and, go from one extreme of nailing down Cale Makar for a misstep and maybe too risky of a play in that moment to going after Connor McDavid for trying to win Olympic gold by trying to score 3-on-3. I mean, is that what we do in hockey media and social media?
I guess some do. I hate to pull out the but you haven't played card, but I think what people need to really understand is the decision you make in the comfort of your home on your couch is far different than the one you make in a tenth of a second on the ice. It is just not the same. I'll tell you the one that really pisses me off is when I hear people saying, "Oh, McDavid's trying to make a hero play in overtime." Yeah. I'm telling you, 100 times out of 100, when a forward with talent and speed, which clearly McDavid has, is going up the ice and he sees a guy skating backwards that never skates backwards, you're attacking 100 out of 100 times. He's got Jack Hughes going backwards, and I can tell you, Jack Hughes is going, oh boy, he's coming to my side. I actually, and I'll just, because I can only talk of my experience, as McDavid got the puck, I said to the TV and to Reese, who wasn't listening to me anyway, my 16-year-old, I said, attack Hughes. Don't, the defenseman was on the other side of the ice. If McDavid had been going up that side, I can guarantee you he would have pulled up. But he sees he's got Hughes in a position that maybe he can beat him. And he doesn't. For Makar, he hesitates just a moment, and he almost gets it, but he doesn't. And there's a great speech in Any Given Sunday from Al Pacino. He's like, a second too late or a second too early, and you don't quite make it. And that's exactly what happened in that place. And I can tell you again, watching that clip, when he's skating backwards, Makar, he thinks, or skating back into his end, he thinks McKinnon's got the puck.
Agreed.
And you can almost see where he goes, oh, shite, that puck's coming to my guy. Because then he picks it up again. And you can say, he should have been going back hard all the time, but you're reading the play all in tenths of seconds or in seconds. You make one not quite the right read and you get burned. These guys are so good. It could have happened the other way.
So good.
It didn't. No. And that was the difference in the game.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll move on as part of the Canadian Brewhouse headlines. 48 locations across Canada, more than 50 TVs at every single location, the largest rooftop patios in Canada. I've been to the patios at the Canadian Brewhouse, and they're second to none. Canadian Brewhouse is the place to watch your favorite team battle it out. Find a location near you at www.thecanadianbrewhouse.com. And I want to put a bow on the post-Olympic stuff because we could talk endlessly about it, right? I want to talk about the swagger of the Tkachuk brothers momentarily, but you mentioned Jack Hughes and then the outcome of the gold medal championship game and whatnot. I thought it was interesting. I mean, Jim and Ellen Hughes very well. So do I. Yeah. We know the Hughes family better than most, right? Just top-notch people. And so in saying that and establishing that, I wasn't at all surprised that both Jack and Quinn quickly came to the defense of Auston Matthews as he was being questioned post-Olympic gold, right? And I don't know who the reporter was who was asking the question, and I wasn't offended by the question. It was like kind of transferring the narrative back to regular season hockey and Matthews as captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Austin didn't really want any of it. He said, geez, just let me have this moment, please. Because he knows what's coming here as he re-engages with the Maple Leafs in their quest to try and claw back into the playoff picture. But Jack and Quinn were there quickly on that podium to derail it. And Quinn established that the Toronto media should focus on Matthew leading Team USA to a gold medal. So I guess I throw this at you only in terms of what the perception should be. I mean, that's Canadian media in general, isn't it? Like, we fixate on the Toronto market, no different than we fixate on the Vancouver market, the Edmonton market, the Montreal market. I mean, those are four of the strongest media voices in the country when it comes to hockey. So, I mean, Austin's going to get peppered, right? But he's going to get peppered more so about, okay, the challenges now that he faces one more time as captain of the Leafs, and not what just happened as captain of Team USA. Fair or unfair, that's how it'll be.
But one doesn't matter to the other. It really doesn't, because the team that he played on in the format that he played in is completely different than the team he's going to and the format that he's playing in. I think as I watch Matthews now, I have in my mind not a standalone player. Not like if I asked you right now, you got to pick one guy, Jack Eichel or Austin Matthews, who would you pick? It's not as clear cut as it used to be. And I think there has been a completion of the game for Jack Eichel. Like, I think Eichel's fantastic. I really do. I think he's an awesome player. And
agreed. Yeah.
Is Matthews the 69 goal scorer anymore? Or at this time? And the answer is probably no. Well, I mean, his numbers tell you they're not. But there's nothing that, of the things that people pick at Matthews for, can't win a big game, well, they just won. So they can't, you can ask him, but all he has to do is just pull out his medal. He should put it in his pocket. And every time somebody asks a question, he should just pull it out. The one thing I did note about when the Hugheses, well, two things that I noted about them when the Hugheses jumped so quickly to defend Austin. First of all is Jack sounded like a 7-year-old with a wispy tooth with no chiclet in there. That cracked me up. Yeah. And so that's going to be what his off days got coming up. But for both of them, it's pretty clear when you hear people talk about Matthews that play with him, they get a different Matthews than we get.
Yes.
There's a different guy in there that he chooses not to show in public.
Yeah.
And really, it doesn't particularly matter what the media thinks or what we think. I wish he was this, or I wish he was more outspoken. Really doesn't matter. Now, it's part of the job, and maybe they shouldn't have put him in that position where he's got to be the spokesman for the team by making him the captain. Maybe that wasn't the right move. But it's pretty clear the guys that play with him think of him far differently, and that's really the only thing that matters.
You know, we're far from a political podcast, and we're not going to dive into that. Is the win, is the spectacle of what was a tremendous showcase for the sport somewhat tarnished by all of it? Well, maybe the reaction to all of it, right? So we're not going to go down there. But I do have time for Matthew and Brady Tkachuk, especially Matthew, who isn't afraid to wear or own his political leanings in front of the world, right? And in part, that makes him, well, the brothers are awesome modern day villains from a pure hockey perspective, right? Like Ryan Rishaug and I were talking about this earlier this morning, but the whole story around the Tkachuks and how they carry themselves, and now as outspoken as they are on the podcast, and, you know, Matthew chirping Leon Draisaitl, which then has drifted in. I don't know, did you see the meme of Matthew Tkachuk wearing a bride's gown? And then you had it's outrageous. But you have the two bridesmaids, Leon Draisaitl on one side in a bridesmaid dress, and Connor McDavid on the other side in a bridesmaid dress. I mean, this is what social media has become, but based in the spirit of Matthew and Brady. And as much as they piss you off, right? When you're trying to, you know, from a Canadian perspective, I always go, I'm like, well, I don't know. Would Brad Marchand do that? Maybe.
He would have before.
Yeah.
Marchand's grown into a different stage. right? He's
Right,
now,
yeah.
which I find really kind of awesome, is that he was a pain in the ass for 15 years, like to everybody. And he loved it. And right when you thought he had done just about enough, he would do something else. And now he's a respected, grateful, observant, older player. He's still, it's not like he's going to win the Lady Byng, but he's different. Matthew and Brady, they really, Matthew likes to stir it up the most of them.
Yeah.
I would say. But here's the thing. This is where you brought up, we don't go down that road, the politics and stuff. You're allowed to support someone or something that other people don't like. That's your choice. We live in a free country. It doesn't mean because you support candidate A and I support candidate B that you're an idiot and I'm the right guy, or the other way around. It means that's who you want to support. They're very proud of being American. And if you're an American, you should be. You might not like everything that goes on in your country, but you should be proud. And if you're a Canadian, you should be proud. You might not like everything that goes on in this country either.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it is. And a free society is supposed to be, your beliefs can be whatever they want. They have that, but they also love sticking the spoke or the stick into the spokes of the bike. They love it. And again, we are lucky because we get to meet these guys in our space, and they're really nice guys. They really are. They're really, they're good guys. They're thoughtful people. They are nothing like you see in the midst of a game. But Drakes, how many tough guys have you met in your career as a broadcaster, way back to when you were playing? And I mean, tough as nails guys, like killers on the ice. And you meet them, they're the nicest people. They're the nicest guys. And it's almost like a WWE caricature. Like, that's the dude in the ring and that's the guy over here. So yeah, they're out front of it, but I guess for the next couple of years anyway, to the World Cup, they can stand on the podium.
So teams are struggling right now as we record this episode of the Ran Dregs podcast on Tuesday morning of getting these Olympians back to their NHL clubs, giving them whatever's determined to be an appropriate level of rest, and then back into the regular season mix. And, for some clubs, that's going to be a bigger challenge. It just is logistically. You have the Americans visiting the White House. If we use Toronto as the example, the Maple Leafs play Tampa Bay Wednesday, and then they've got the back-to-back. They're in Sunrise to play the Panthers on Thursday. How difficult is it going to be for any of these Olympians? The Americans, obviously, because all they've done since Sunday is celebrate, deservedly so, but to shift your focus from the incredible high of winning or the low of losing in that gold medal game to now coming back and having to focus on regular season hockey for the next 25 plus regular season games, and then hopefully, get mentally in shape for the playoffs. How difficult is that going to be?
I can only assume it's too impossible be sharp right away, right? The when a regular season ends or the playoffs end, you get the summer off, and then you come back to camp and you start preseason hockey, and you're like, oh my God, this is like you can't even get on down the ice without wondering what the hell I'm doing, right? These guys are going. I saw it compared to, a go-kart versus F1 racing, and I thought that was pretty exact. But here's another thing. So that you've got the very best players that are going to have to deal with that. The rest of the league, they've been waiting around for 3 weeks. They can't wait to get going. I suspect the first weekend of the games are going to be pretty sloppy. But as you mentioned, the Leafs open, with Tampa and Florida, these are critical games
They are.
in the course of trying to make the playoffs. And who knows, by the end of those two games, Toronto might think about their team in a completely different way. What if they win both?
Yeah.
What if they lose both?
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden you're, as much as teams have charted this course of what they think they're going to do between now and the deadline, that might change in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing, Dregs, to that, and I know we'll get into some trade spec stuff, but when GMs it's like anybody in life, when you've got time to think, I don't know that that's always a good thing. GMs have had 3 weeks to think, and they haven't always, certainly they've been discussing with their colleagues about what might happen. And so I think there's real potential for, and this isn't trying to stir up interest, but I think there's real potential for some deals to come out of left field because there's been more time to work on the parameters than you normally would.
Yeah. And look, if you're Brad Treliving, that's really what it boils down to here is you probably have 2-3 games, their next 2-3 games. I mean, if you go 0 for 3, right? And now you're 9 points out of a wild card spot.
You're done.
Then you really have to real boil down. And I'm in the camp that believes that, okay, Toronto isn't going to be a renovation or a rebuild team. They're not. Retool, sure, change up some things. I get all that. I get it. But you do still have to try and engage and keep good players. I would want to sign Bobby McMahon if I were the Toronto Maple Leafs. Even if somebody's dangling a first-round draft pick at you, okay, was that first-round draft pick going to help you 4 years from now? Probably not. Maybe, depending. Yep. Maybe, but those are the decisions that you're talking about here, right? And not every general manager is in that same predicament. But I think in Nashville as another example,
Okay, but let me stop you on. Let me stop on Toronto. So remember when they were really bad, and then they ended up with Matthews and Marner at 1 and 3 in the draft, or 1 and 4 in the draft. Remember that? Well, how do you get those players? You don't sign guys like Bob, but you don't sign guys like Bobby McMahon if that's the case. So, you would be more tied into what their general, overview would be. But if there's a place that can survive changing on the fly, it's Toronto.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think any place can survive if you have a path that the people can see, as opposed to just jumping all over the place. Like Nashville's in a tough spot because they had a really slow start. Then all of a sudden, Steven Stamkos found 2008 Steven Stamkos, right? He scores every game.
He did.
It's crazy. But Marchessault has not been a good fit. What if you could move Marchessault? You move the money. Yeah, they would. And then you're a different team again. I mean, they're not good enough, Nashville, to be a significant playoff year after year contender. And so they probably have to look more to the future. And it's easy to say, but if you're the guy stroking the checks and your finance department says, this is going to cost us $15 million a year until we make the playoffs, do I want to really do that? How long are we going to not be in the playoffs? Right. Like these become real dollars and cents questions. And at the end of the day, that's probably going to drive some teams' decisions.
Yeah, no question. And part of what keeps the juices flowing for me with the trade deadline looming, and it's elevated coming out of a roster freeze around the Olympics and whatnot, is how decisions made by one team influence a decision made by another team. And I'm not talking about trade partners here, but, shift over to Calgary. And look, Nazim Kadri wants to be traded. He wants to go to a playoff. I think you can appreciate that at this stage of his career. The problem is he has term remaining on his deal. That is problematic for a lot of teams. But on top of that, Craig Conroy looks at Nazim Kadri. He's got his owner, Murray Edwards, who's paying close attention, going, well, we can't give this guy away. He's got term. He's a good player. He's good in the community. And there has been interest. There are offers for Nazim Kadri. But Conroy's probably looking at the Nashville situation going, okay, well, what if Ryan O'Reilly is actually in play? What does that trade look like? And if there are 5 teams that want Ryan O'Reilly, only one team gets him. Well, maybe the team that wanted him second most shifts over to Calgary and goes, okay, well, now we're ready to bite on Nazim Kadri. So that's part of.
But Drakes, this because again, you talk to these guys in frequency. So now you're Kadri, you're the 2 center available behind O'Reilly, if we want to rank them like that. And now Nashville has got a couple of teams that are making offers, and they up it a little bit here. They change a draft pick to a prospect or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now you're getting down into the 48 hours before the deadline.
Yeah.
If you're Craig Conroy, how long can you wait? What if that O'Reilly deal goes down to the last hour and you get stuck holding a player and then you have to come out and say, yeah, the deal wasn't right. We're going to look at it at the draft.
Yeah.
Because so like these guys, the poker playing ability is critical for them. Like I often liken it to you're standing on the edge of the curb and there's traffic going and you got to decide when you're stepping off, because you might step off one day too early, but what if you wait one day too late?
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with that? And those are the pressures that, and those are the pressures those guys have to deal with. We just get to talk about it.
And one more in terms of trade speculation, it's a big one, and that's the Vancouver Canucks, right? So, there's all kinds of possibilities that exist, and this isn't news breaking by any stretch. We know that the Vancouver Canucks have been in the trade game for quite some time. I mean, obviously, they moved Kiefer Sherwood. And there are other pieces that they're trying to move. There's interest around Evander, Kane. That could go down as early as this week. I'm going to talk more about this on TSN and Insider Trading, but renewed interest in Elias Pettersson right before the Olympic break. And I think it continued over the course of the break. Now, nothing is imminent, obviously. He's got the no-move protection. The club doesn't have anything whereby they'd go to JP Barry to get to Elias Pettersson to say, hey, here's what we have. Are you willing to waive? None of that. And you need considerable assets if you're Vancouver. We know there's a willingness to trade the player, but does that feel to you more likely to be something that is considered in the offseason, or because of how twisted and condensed and intense this year is, are you open to the stronger possibility that Pettersson could get dealt by the 6th of March?
Okay, so the problem is waiting to the offseason. That means you kind of punt a little bit on this season. If you think Pettersson is going to help you, you're thinking about it in the context of the Eastern Conference is crapshoot.
The team acquiring them you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, if we're talking about Carolina. The Eastern Conference is a crapshoot. There you are again as one of the better teams. One of the things that has haunted Carolina is when they get into that second round of the playoffs, which they seemingly do all the time, which is really remarkable. They've built a program that year over year is in that mix. Can they find 1 or 2 more goals? It's crazy, but that's really what they're looking for. They're not looking for 10 more goals. They're not looking for another Jacob Slavin. They're looking for somebody that can provide them with just a little bit of offense. And can Pettersson do that? Can that style of play help Pettersson move along quicker? The quickness is always something you'd think about. But Carolina has so many guys that go so fast, maybe that becomes okay. Maybe that becomes a fit. And that's what Carolina's trying to figure out. That's what any other team is trying to figure out with these guys that have money and term left on their deal. Can they fit in the style that we play? And we saw it with, they took that big swing with Rantanen last year. It didn't work. And quickly they moved on. Like, they're not shy. They'll make a deal if they think can, and really it's the way it should be. If you think you've got a deal that can help, timid doesn't get you anywhere. Stupid gets you out of the playoffs. Timid doesn't get you anywhere. And I think Carolina does their work, and they're pretty adamant on running that like a business, though, right? Like dollar in, dollar out. They're not, and that's the way the owner decided and decides to run it. And Pettersson's an interesting one, though, for sure.
Yeah, and look, you bring up a valid point, though. The money has to work both ways.
Sure.
It's not like Vancouver is collecting bad contracts, given the predicament that they're in. So when you talk about assets, of course, there has to be futures attached to it to make it a meaningful trade for the Vancouver Canucks. And they're probably aware that they're going to have to take something back, because the business side for Tom Dunnan and the Canes, if it is Carolina, it could be any number of teams, but we know Carolina has expressed interest. The dollars do have to make sense. I mean, that's what it boils down to. So something to keep an eye on, and undoubtedly we'll be talking about until the 6th of March, unless it happens before that. Before we wrap up the Brewhouse headlines here, we haven't glossed over it. I mean, we've been consumed by the Olympics, but as expected, and I say it that way because it was reported that the Edmonton Oilers were going to do something to their coaching staff, and the return of Paul Coffey to said staff was kind of out there. It was being speculated on. Nobody was denying it from management of the Oilers, coaching staff of the Oilers. I mean, why would they during the Olympic break? But Paul Coffey is back with the Edmonton Oilers coaching staff. I mean, does this make the team better? What was your reaction when you saw it officially announced that Coffey was back? How is this going to change things?
I found this a really curious story. If he wanted to coach, he would have been coaching in October. Like if he was like, "Hey, I love this. I want to be I'll come back in October." I don't know how. I don't know enough about it to say, "Oh yeah, this guy wanted, or the coach wanted him or didn't want him." The owner like he's the owner's guy, right? Him and the owner are tight. And
pretty tight. Yeah.
And so things have been unstable. And so changing a coach and a big personality. Paul's a big personality. That changes a lot of dynamics around there. I don't know how to read into it. You say, can it help the team? Sure, I guess, maybe. It would really help if he was playing. Like that would help. But I just find it. So this is the second assistant coach that's been shoved aside this year. Mark Savard got fired in Toronto, and now Mark Stewart's going to move 3 feet down the bench, and Coffey's going to run the bench, the defense. It's an odd circumstance. It feels like. It feels like an emergency stopgap, and hoping that it works. That's what it feels like, just looking at it from the outside.
Yeah. All right, those are your headlines. Thank you to the Canadian Brewhouse. We're giving Ryan Rishaug a couple of days. 24-hour trek from Milano to Edmonton, Alberta. Checked in with him this morning. He's not refreshed, but got some sleep.
Was he back home and he couldn't get up? Was he?
He was offering to join the pod. He was offering. And
was he going to come on and go, "Morning, guys"?
Morning, guys. My hair. So he's going to rejoin us. I expect on Thursday for Ask Rain Dregs Anything, and maybe we'll bring him in for the Tim Hortons challenge.
We got to bring him in for the challenge. Does he know that he's still behind everybody, including those that aren't playing?
Yeah, well, I'm sure Randine will have reminded him of this. I actually checked into the app today, Ray. I don't know if you did. You should, because it probably needs to be updated. It kind of mine went dormant during the Olympic break. So I had to update the app, and I'm like, okay, I'm curious to see if they already have their brackets in order, their 3 brackets, because if they did and you were to submit now in advance of Wednesday's game, it's a bit of a gamble, isn't it? Are we sure who's playing and who isn't playing? Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
But you can't.
I would pick guys. But this is going to be my theory for the first weekend. I'm picking non-Olympians.
Yeah.
That's going to be my theory. Yep, absolutely.
Interesting. Just fresh and ready to go.
Fresh and ready to go. And I'm looking for, who was Zuby's guy? Zuby picked, Jordan Spence. Jordan Spence.
Come on.
And he scored. Yeah. Come on.
We should have given him 5 extra points.
That was a remarkable pick. Yeah, that was a remarkable pick.
By the way, we'll wrap up here, but our good pal Mitch Dawson from Acushnet, who, kindly sends us some great stuff on a regular basis, annual basis, footwear from FootJoy. We get the great FootJoy shirts and whatnot.
Yes.
So I've been trying to angle him to a Leafs game. And look, I mean, he's got sons. So, and no different than most Canadian markets, securing tickets is a bit of a challenge. But I managed to lock him down on a pair of tickets in golds, the Leafs hosting the Ottawa Senators. Now, I'm a partial season ticket holder. So I thought, Ottawa, Toronto a month ago didn't look that sexy. So I'm like, those are the ones. I'm going to set those aside. Maybe Mitch can take one of his sons. It'll be great for him, right? Well, it's February 28th, so not that far away. And all of a sudden, Toronto and Ottawa is kind of a big game. So anyway, Mitch will he'll have a good time, and he'll get us set up for the summer.
I'll tell you,
far away.
I just I had my new FootJoys on down in Arizona. Got some nice remarks on how sharp they look.
There you go.
It was about the only thing that didn't go wrong on that trip. So thank you, Mitch. Those were great. Well, I had some issues.
Yeah.
Need a new driver shaft. Yeah, my clubs fell off.
That story. Yeah.
Clubs fell off. New driver shaft. So
it's good and bad. Though. Like,
why is that?
It's good and bad. Nobody wants to break their driver while you're on a golf trip, but the idea of replacing the driver is kind of exciting. It's kind of exciting.
I'm now working on a fitting time to go get a new driver shaft. I was so excited booking the appointment yesterday.
Will you will you get the exact same specs, the same driver, or are you going to test drive something else?
I'm test driving now. Come on. Now's the opportunity. I could end up with new clubs out of one driver shaft. I'm going to end up with new clubs. I know it.
That's outstanding. All right, buddy. Well, we'll let you get to that. You can polish up. Don't forget, submit your Tim Hortons Hockey Challenge selections tomorrow, Wednesday morning. I'll remind you. And
Wednesday morning.
We'll get.
Yes, please.
We'll get. Yeah. Now, are we picking Wednesday for Thursday? Why don't we pick Wednesday?
Why don't we do that? Wednesday. So we've got something. Yeah.
And then we can pick again on Thursday for the follow-up Tuesday edition of Rain Dregs. But we'll pick Wednesday.
Make sure you get Rashog out of the wrapper, and he can make his picks and then go back to bed.
Yeah. Well, we'll try our best there. All right, buddy. Have a good day, and we'll check in again on Thursday.
Yeah. You too, Dregs. Thanks for listening, everybody. Talk to you on Thursday.
Yes, and thank you to our sponsors who continue to kindly support the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast. Our title sponsor, Tim Hortons, thank you. And thank you to the Canadian Brewhouse. Enjoy the resumption of the NHL regular season. Until Thursday, stay safe, everybody.